Tall Weaver. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a baby blanket. My friend told me that she was expecting her second, and you know, as much as I'm flattered, she didn't going to have another baby just to get me to make her something else on my loom. But uh, that's a choice. She could have just asked. For her first, I just made her something out of some stash yarn that I had on my David loom using just a basic 2-2 twill. It was um, it was a Lion brand acrylic yarn. It was pinks, purples, blues, whites. It was really pretty, and it ended up making some really interesting like pooling and like an unintentional plaid kind of situation came out of it. So it was kind of nice. It was very low effort in terms of the planning, and it was a lot of fun to make. This time around, I decided to do something a little bit more planned and intricate. First, I started with the yarn. So for yarn selection, I had recently come across this yarn that kind of struck me as interesting, Holtzgarn Coast. So I ordered a color card from Yarn Barn and they sent it and it felt amazing. And it is a 55% merino, 45% cotton yarn. So it's machine washable if you use like a gentle wool cycle, and you should air dry it because it's not super wash. So it will felt and shrink. I ended up going with a color palette here of peach, meadow, and old gold. I decided the old gold was going to be a little bit of an accent color, and these were going to be the main colors. Once I picked out the color, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Like this, you could do any number of things with the baby blanket. As long as there's not any long floats or lace, it doesn't really matter, right? Babies aren't especially picky. So I was looking through a couple of different things. I've been wanting to do half drawl for a while, but I couldn't find anything like that really spoke to me. Or wasn't making like I wanted to use all three colors in the right ratios, but like the half drawl wasn't really. I couldn't figure out a way to make that work with what I was planning. Then I was thinking maybe I just do a houndstooth, but the color values are a little too close together, so that wouldn't really have that nice pop that I was hoping for. I was looking at maybe just doing some twill stripes, plain weave stripes. Um, Summer and winter was even an option if I doubled one of the yarns. So I don't know. I was going through the Ann Dixon book. I was going through the green book. I was going through the red book, orange book, whatever you want to call it. Um, I even looked at keto weaving and a couple other things. And then I was like, you know what? Why am I looking at 4 shafts? I have 8, 12, and 16 shaft looms available to me. Why not look at some other things? So out came Strickler. And as always, full of inspiration and beauty. I ended up looking through quite a different ones, but Strickler 248 here. I don't want to get it too close, so you guys copyright, so on and so forth. But there's 2 variations on the same threading with A block and B block on 8 shafts. And one of them is sort of a broken twill, almost giving like a satin kind of effect, where the colors blend more naturally. But I ended up going for the turn twill because I liked the really graphic visual split between the contrasting yarn colors and lines. And it's really simple. It's 4 A blocks and 4 B blocks in light, 4 A blocks and B blocks in dark, and similar for the treadling. And the blocks are just straight draw on 4. So it was really easy. Turn twill tie up. I've done turn twill quite a few times at this point, but not with these specific color blocks in this kind of situation. So I thought it would be pretty cool and result in an interesting color blend because the pink and the green were kind of going to mellow together a little bit. And then the orange would come in and kind of give a little bit of a pop. In terms of the actual planning of it, I went straight to Tempo Weave, which is my favorite draft editing software. I'm excited for it to come out of beta eventually, one day, maybe. But I like the project planning aspect of it. So it was recommended a set of 18 ends per inch. So I programmed that in. I programmed in how many repeats I wanted. I ended up going with a 38 inch wide width and reed with 18 ends per inch. And then I set it on a 2.5 yard warp to allow for a decently long, like 1.5 yard blanket, plus lots of fringe. Babies love twisted fringe, plus enough room to sample and adjust. And I'm glad I give myself a little wiggle room, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I also decided that it was going to go on the Delta behind me just because the Delta was naked and needed some love. So I dressed the Delta. I actually managed to record quite a bit of my project this time, thinking in advance of, actually sharing it with y'all. So I ended up recording a lot of the warp measurement here, and it was kind of lucky that I did because there were a ton of problems with this. It was going to be 672 ends, and I just kept having break after break on the yarn. I had it in the cones. I had it in my winding station, and I'll link to it below. I love the winding station. It's great. Um, these cones are a little tall, and they were really fat because it was like a full 1 pound cone, and it was a very gentle, tender yarn. Like I think if they had spun it a little bit more tightly or something, like, or even just plied it a little bit more tightly, it would have been stronger. But you can just like look at it the wrong way and break this yarn. So I ended up getting quite a few breaks in the winding section, which was fine. I just went back to the last turn and then just did an overhand knot and just kept going. So it took me, I think, about an hour to wind the whole thing, even with all the breaks. So it wasn't like a crazy, crazy long warping or winding process because it was so short of a warp. The next day, I got out ye old trapeze and some weight and decided to go straight to the beaming of the project. I wanted to get this done and off the loom and shipped off so that, the baby's not due for a while, but I had all the yarn, I had everything measured, I had everything planned, so why not get it done, get it out, and have it as the first baby sprinkle gift? Is it a sprinkle? That's what it is. Like, it's the second one, right? Eh. The beaming of the project was really easy. Um, in terms of like setting it up, it was I just used the built-in rattle on my Delta, which is roughly 5 dents per inch with a little bit of wiggle room for metric. As I believe Jane says, it's like every 3 to 4 inches you leave um, a 1 dent gap in the reed. I just kind of eyeball it and make sure that it kind of works, even across 130 centimeters, 51 inches. It doesn't make a huge difference. As long as it's roughly the right width, that's what really matters. I thought about using my lofty fiber rattle for this, but at 18 ends per inch, it kind of worked out all right. I just did 2 4 2 4 alternating, and that worked out. Or was it, what did I dent it? Or let's see, 18 over 5. I don't remember when I ended up doing it, but it worked out. I think I did a 4 4 2 4 2. Whatever the math worked out to being, I did it in groups of 2 to make it easy on my brain, and just grab whole chunks of it off of the leaf sticks. On this loom, I don't have helping hands yet. Lofty Fiber doesn't make them for the Delta. I should actually ask them if they wouldn't mind adding that to their queue of projects. But they don't make them for this. I have helping hands for literally every loom that I have because it puts the leaf sticks at the perfect angle to come right through the rattle and onto the back beam without any issues. And the snags are super minimal, and it just chef's kiss, beautiful design, love it. But once I had everything measured out, I put the 1x4s up in the front of the loom, clamped them down, put the big lead pipe, not lead pipe, steel pipe, whatever. I put the big pipe across the top and then slung everything over and attached the weights using some Texel that actually used to be the countermarch mechanism on the Delta, and then just started slowly cranking, nice and slow. I was really gentle with it because, oh my gosh, this yarn wanted to break. I had 4 breaks just beaming it onto the loom, going super slow using t-shirt yarn for lots of stretch as it was holding onto the leaf stick. So even that wasn't enough to keep it from going bonkers. The 1 pound weights tend to be kind of the perfect weight for getting a nice, good tension without going too crazy. I started off with using 3 pound weights that I just had from my Peloton, and it ended up being just too much. After it was fully beamed, I went and cut everything to a uniform length, pulled it through, as one does. and then started threading it. As I mentioned, the threading was super easy. It was 4 A blocks and 4 B blocks split across the first 4 and back 4 shafts, or middle 4 on the delta, I should say. So I just went straight through. It didn't even take like maybe an hour, hour and a half. I was watching a Twitch stream of a video game, and it ended up being pretty fast to get through the whole thing. I didn't even pay attention to what was going on too much. So it was a nice fast process. When I'm threading, I found that typically if it's a straight threading and I've got a good cross, I will use the threading hook side of my slaying hook and get pretty good speed with that. Or if it's like a thick yarn or a fuzzy yarn that doesn't really want to behave. But if it's like a smooth yarn, I'll just pop it through by hand, especially if it's like in an uneven pattern, like some kind of advancing twill, or if it's something like an overshot, I'll just use my fingers and pop the threads through, no matter how like sticky or bulky they are, just because it's easier than fussing all the different up and down across the different shafts I've found. The threading of it was super easy. It was just 2-1-2-1 in a 12 dent reed. So it went really fast, and the whole project was kind of on a roll pretty quickly. I did end up then putting it on pause and not starting the actual weaving until the next day. I did put a little sampler, or did sample the pattern to make sure that I'd done all the tie-ups correctly. It took me exactly 30 minutes to do a full 8 shaft, 8 treadle tie-up with tabby on a Louette countermarch loom. Here is the sample of what I did. It turned out pretty good. I just used, since it was roughly the same size, I used some 8-2 cotton that I had laying around on a bobbin just to make sure that I had everything right. Then I did some hem stitching, advanced it, and then went to town on weaving it. But yeah, I just kept getting so many breaks on this project. It was crazy. Like you know, I did all the tricks I knew of. I was using a really gentle tension. I was using a really gentle loom, to be perfectly honest, like a countermarch loom with Texsolve heddles. I don't know how much more I could like baby the thing. I was using a monster temple to make sure that there was no abrasion on the outside threads. Temples don't actually do anything to like reduce the final draw in or shrinkage of the final product, but it does reduce the abrasion of the reed hitting the sides of the warp as you're beating. So it does improve your reliability of not getting broken warp ends, and it also can help kind of make sure that you are, one, having an easy beat because you don't have as much friction, but two, getting a nice consistent beat so you're not fighting against the draw in with every beat, because sometimes it's hard to keep going in. But as I was weaving along, I decided to add in a couple of extra pattern repeats. I was going to do a perfectly mirrored center, so I did orange and then green, pink all the way to the center, orange again, and then green, pink all the way to the end, ending in orange. And I was going to mirror that to have a square project. But I looked kind of at like what the length I had and decided to play warp chicken a little bit, and I added 4 extra repeats of AB. So I had 2 sets of stripes on either side of the center. So total of 8 extra pattern repeats across the whole project. So it ended up being a little over 42, 43 inches long, which I think is a nice size for a baby blanket that's going to shrink a lot as you wash it, right? It only took me about 2 nights of actually weaving on the project. I finished the project while on a chat with some friends, so I didn't catch footage of me cutting it off or doing any of that stuff, but I did catch a picture of it as soon as it was fresh off the loom. And then I went and did some fringe twisting on it. I actually kind of enjoy fringe twisting. It's very relaxing. And then I did a wet finish. For the wet finishing, I just decided to use my Eucalan since there's wool content in here, even though it's, you can typically just wet finish stuff in Dawn dish soap or whatever you want to use. But I figured why not be a little gentle and put some nice stuff on it. So I did that, took a photo of that, and then I hung it up to dry once I had run it through a salad spinner, not used for food. But salad spinners are a great way to get excess moisture out of anything that you are blocking or wet finishing, so it doesn't sit to dry forever. Along with a desk fan. If your stuff takes forever to dry, get a desk fan. Just put it right on it. But yeah, this didn't even take half a day to dry. So here it is in all of its glory. You can see how the blocks turned out. I really, really like the way that the texture kind of plays with the color here and the blocks and the color fade. It all worked out really, really well. I'm quite pleased with it. You can see the fringe. Babies love playing with twisted fringe. I've gotten many photos of from the previous baby blanket being played with. So this will be going in the mail probably tomorrow, and will be the first gift to the baby sprinkle. So hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of the whole project. And don't forget to like and subscribe. My Instagram is the tall weaver with underscores, and I'll have that linked below. And thank you so much for the engagement and comments and questions on the last video that I posted. Feel free to keep them coming. Like, it's really fun to chat about weaving with other people. I've got a couple of ideas for additional videos that I want to do, talking specifically about like my favorite non-standard tools, different kinds of hacks that I've, got some specific like loom focused videos. And then let me know about other stuff that you want to see. I just love talking about weaving and posting videos. One thing I don't really think I'm going to do is tutorials, just because there's much better equipped people out there to do tutorials. But, talking through how I design projects and how I make things, and like, that's kind of the fun part of it for me as well. So I'll have a mix of all that coming in the future. So like, subscribe, comment. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.